What I want to talk about this morning um, is a continuation of our discussion of the paramis, um, those qualities, those sort of ethical qualities that the Buddha says we need to develop in order to um, really wake up, in order to see clearly, in order to be at ease. And the parami that we're going to discuss this morning is patience. So I spent a chunk of time this week reading different people's writings on patience and deciding not to read them to you. Because for the most part, um, they define patience in a way that, is pretty familiar to all of us. It's just to be patient. Um, and I wanted to define patience in a way that was really in alignment with our work with the Anapanasati Sutta. I was having a conversation recently and um, remembered that the reason I wanted to talk about the Paramis was to create a bridge um, within the Anapanasati Sutta, taking us from the basics of the practice of knowing, steadying, calming, and releasing into the very last part of the Anapanasati Sutta, which talks about the awakening factors. And I wanted to make the jump less of a jump, more like of a smooth connection. I'm not sure I've succeeded in doing that, but that's what my original intention was. So, with patience, um, it's nice to remember that we've been working with this one sutta, this Anapanasati Sutta, the sutta on the mindfulness of the in and out of breathing for years. That's a really good example of patience, not rushing off until we really understand what this sutta is about. So, what I wanted to start with this morning um, was the line in the sutta in which it says you're training yourself, breathing in, you're steadying, calming, or releasing any mental or bodily formation that arises. Any mental or bodily formation that arises. And I wanted to focus for a moment on what's a mental or bodily formation. And what does that have to do with patience? When we practice or when we live our lives during the day, um, sensory stimulation occurs. We hear a sound, we see a sight, we have a thought, there's a sensation in the body, there's an emotion in the heart, and we respond to it. Um, that's what we are. We're beings that respond to sensory stimulation. And for most of our day, our responses are very reactive and quick and habitual. for most of the day. For that matter, even when we're sitting, it's not uncommon for our responses to a sensory experience to be reactive, to be quick, to be habitual, without reflection, without examination. And the practice, the Anapanasati practice, is to slow all that down. The practice is so that any mental or bodily formation that arises, we steady. We steady. This is clearly an example of patience. Don't rush off to the next thing. First, know that a sound has arisen that we're responding to. First, know that a thought has arisen that we're responding to. Calm the energy that wants to run off to the next thing. The next thing often being some form of analysis or examination of the sensory experience. What is this sound? What is this thought? Oh, I have a thought. It leads to another thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to another thought. On and on. It would be nice to be patient and rest with the initial thought. It would be nice to give that initial thought or sight or sound enough respect to steady our attention, knowing that this is occurring. And knowing that the sensory experience is, in a sense, a body experience, right? Our hearing organs are part of the body. They are the body. All our senses are the body. But we only know sensory experience with the mind. Without consciousness, without knowing, what is the bodily experience? Being unconscious is simply a way of describing someone who has no knowledge of what sensory experiences are occurring. When we have a thought and we say, oh, I want to stay here. I want to examine this thought. I want to be with this thought. I want to know this thought. And we get an instruction. And the instruction is often something, what would it be like, instead of examining the thought with more thoughts, what would it be like to examine the thought with what the experience is in the body? So, in a sense, we're saying, let's move from a mental formation to a bodily formation. So, let's say that the sensory experience is an emotional reaction. Let's say sadness. So there's sadness in the heart. It's very easy to think, oh, what am I sad about? And, oh, of course, I should be sad about this because this and this and this and this. It's the whole analysis. But we give an instruction. Why not experience the sadness as a bodily formation? Where is the sadness experienced? Where in the body? What is it like? Is it steady? Is it moving? Is it like this? Is it like that? And so we examine the bodily formation. At that moment in our practice, patience is the most significant thing we can have because it's difficult for us in a life in which we have been trained to move so quickly, to rest quietly and experience a sensation in the body without moving on to the next one. Allowing the depth of that sensation to be experienced without wandering back into thought, to analyze, to name, to understand, to examine what the connection between this bodily experience and other aspects of my life. Instead, we're patient. We rest quietly right there, right where that bodily formation is present. We steady ourselves with patience. We calm the energy that wants to go on to the next thing with patience. We release the intensity of all that we could do instead of staying here by being patient. We just rest in this sadness as it is actually present. Adding nothing. Getting rid of nothing. Content. Content to experience this very thing. Contentment is the result of patience. We get stuck all the time in movement, oddly enough. We think of stuck as being in one place, but for the most part, we're really stuck in the constancy of needing to move on, to add more. I'm a little stuck in the moment too because my next step was to add more. And I just sort of talk myself out of it. I don't think so. What's it like to be present? And what are you feeling now? How's the restlessness that is so present for us all the time? The need to add another thing, to move on to the next. We're so busy. Our minds are busy. Our bodies are busy. Our attention is incredibly busy. What's it like to just be here? Just with this. How do your shoulders feel at the moment? Where are your feet at the moment? What are your thoughts doing at the moment? Where do you want to go so that it's different than this? Where would you like something juicier? Where would you like to be more entertained? What else is there? So busy, so difficult to accept just this, exactly as it is. Unpleasant, pleasant, boring. What would it be like to be patient? What would it be like to rest, to relax, to settle? To just be with whatever is. To let each experience be present, and by releasing our entanglement with it, we free each experience that we have, each phenomena that arises. We free them to come and go, not at our wish, but at theirs. In the example of sadness, imagine just sitting with the physicality of what this sadness is like, resting there, accepting, patient, calm, allowing the sadness to be its own, staying present, patient. The sadness will dissipate. It will vanish. Something else will show up as the focus of our attention. A new sensation in the body as we're focusing on the body. A sound, a sight. And imagine being so patient that you allow the arising of this new experience, this new phenomena, this thought, this new body sensation, this sound. You just allow it to arise. And once again, free from analysis, free from understanding, free from figuring it out, free from wishing it would stay or wishing it would go. Content. Sitting, resting, steady, calm, releasing entanglement, and resting simply in what is, without needing it to be different, without having to work on anything. Patient. Just resting in patience, knowing that there is nothing more natural than the arising and passing away of one thing after another. Resting in the discernment. It's like this. It's like this. It's like this. No need to create meaning. No need to figure out where this fits in the scheme of your life. Resting. And hopefully experiencing the joy itself of the coming and going of one phenomena after another. Recognizing how fortunate we are to be born into such a dynamic flow, into such a place where out of who knows where something appears. My body was feeling like this, and suddenly there's another sensation in the body, one that wasn't there a moment ago. Amazing, wondrous, delightful. Even if the new bodily sensation is unpleasant, the miracle of one thing after another occurring. Oh, the temptation to run off and figure it all out, make sense of it all, understand what we need to do in response. This is what we do. We run. We're so busy running. And this practice of patience that we really want to develop is the practice of staying with, of being with. We don't need to go on to the next thing right now. We can be right here. There is so much right here, so much life in every moment of our being. Why rush off and miss it? Because we imagine something more interesting, possibly. Because we're uncomfortable and we want to be comfortable, possibly. Because we're discontent and we think moving on is the way to find contentment. Very possible. Steadying, calming is the way to find contentment. Patience. Resting quietly right where we are. No need for anything else. Letting the world internally and externally, letting it be itself. Letting it unfold exactly as it does. Patient. There is always movement. Nothing is ever truly still. The wind blows, the leaves move. Everything in the world changes. And we want to ride the worldly winds. We have goals. We have places to be, things to do. We have accomplishments that we want to put on the list of things that are done. And when we get absorbed and entangled in the constancy of movement to where there is no presence, there's only, absorption into the movement, into the constancy of figuring things out. We increase our restlessness. We lose a sense of calm. We want things to be different than they are. And we have no contentment. Without contentment, we get upset. We get angry. Who is this that's preventing my contentment? Or we get lustful. I would be content if only I had, if only I could get, if only I could make this. Patience. Patience. Rest where the flow is. Watch the arising and passing away of each thought, each feeling, each sensation in the body. Smile. Smile at everything that appears. Befriend and feel warm in the heart to everything that appears. Difficult? Start with what's easy. Find a place where it's easy to be patient, to rest, to relax, to just see things as they are in this very moment without needing it to be different. If you start with things that I could do it with this is a experience of the body I'm curious about. I can steady my attention right here. I don't need to move on. I don't need to react. I can be patient. And as patience develops, you'll be able to become more patient. And you'll discover when something happens that is difficult, is unpleasant or upsetting, the patience becomes invaluable. The ability to rest and see this unpleasant experience, the way this is happening that is so different than how I wish things were happening. I just can sit here now with the sensation, the experience of unpleasant in all its very many forms. I can rest here patient. knowing that if I'm patient, understanding what the skillful means of dealing with whatever is difficult will become more vivid, will clarify. Steadiness, calm, being patient forms a lens in which we can see more clearly what is exactly here. What is this about? When we go off away from what is happening to think about it, we're not so close anymore. We get lost very quickly because thought leaps. It jumps and it jumps and it jumps and it jumps. And soon we're so far away from the original experience that our thoughts are just imaginal. And we end up imagining solutions. When we are patient and stay with the difficult, the unpleasant, just as it is, the depth of our understanding, not in language, but the felt sense of what's clearly true, has a chance to show up and become vivid and clear. It's nice to give that a chance. It's very sweet to be patient. It really makes life much more open to contentment. So let's sit and try this. Let's sit, and whatever arises in your experience, as you breathe in, as you breathe out, steadying whatever arises in your experience, calming whatever arises in your experience, and just being patient, letting go of busyness, letting go of the next thing, and being with what is.